Hey guys, Mike Rahm here again with Landmark Commercial Realty and Commonwealth Commercial Appraisal Group. Today I'm going to just speak briefly in this vlog about an article I wrote. It's actually going to be highlighted in an upcoming magazine and podcast through the Appraisal Buzz. And so I'm really excited about that. You know, I think there's some really interesting takeaways from what I'm about to go through. Hopefully I don't run it over like 7 minutes or anything like that, but nevertheless, I think it'll be important stuff for people that are actively in the market to consider. So don't let the length of this video scare you. I really do think that there's going to be some good takeaways. And so, yeah, I've been writing a lot. You know, I don't really want to post a bunch of articles on LinkedIn because I know a lot of people would rather see a video. So with that being said, I might do more of these in the future. And let's just jump into it. So basically, the article is called "Market Correction or Seller Panic," and you know, I'm not necessarily taking a stance on either one, but I do think that right now we need to be critical of the information that we get more than ever, and not just take it at face value. Because as I will conclude the video, there's a difference between sale price with conditions of sale and market value. So those are that relationship, I think, is really important to remember throughout what I'm gonna discuss here. So let's just take a step back and look at some brief history, right? So in December 31st, 2021, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage was 2.65%. It increased to 3.76 as of March 3rd, 2022, and as of the date I wrote this, which is June 26, 2022, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage was at 5.81%. So, assuming a $250,000 loan was committed on December 31st, 2021, your monthly payment was approximately $1,007, exclusive of escrow for real estate taxes and insurance. But fast forward to today, and that same $250,000 loan at a 5.81% interest rate translates into a monthly payment of $1,468, and that's a 46% increase in monthly mortgage expense. Put another way, you know, if your sort of minimum threshold for affordability was $100 or $1,007 based on your 2.65% interest rate, that now translates into a loan that you're able to qualify for at $171,506. That would be at a 5.81% interest rate, right? So instead of $250,000, now you can only afford $170,000. So that's an erosion of buying power of approximately $80,000. So naturally, this has forced some buyers to seek lower price points or completely eliminate them from the market. So that begs the question, what's going to happen to home values? And to answer this question, I first considered the correlation between interest rates and home values, and I'll include this chart in the comments, but the correlation is not as close as you might think, because interest rates, I started thinking about why that might be, because at first my hypothesis was they're directly correlated. I mean, think about it. Your grandparents, you probably hear the argument of, oh, yeah, like when I bought my house, the interest rates were 18%. Well, yeah, Grandma, but the house was only $100,000. And so I was thinking to myself that was the correlation. And it is correlated, it's just not as correlated as many might think. And, the reason why I believe is that interest rates are sort of a byproduct of a lot of other economic interactions. Supply and demand, supply chain, inflation, all these other factors that go into things, that go into the economy, influence the interest rate. So basically, my refound, I guess, or renewed hypothesis is that home values might not actually change as much as people think, because despite the general consumer buying power deteriorating with inflation and higher interest rates, these influences have less of an effect on the upper middle class and upper class, who primarily remain in the market. And these are the same people that were executing on deals prior to the during the pandemic, and certainly will continue to be executing on deals afterwards. So asset prices don't fluctuate as much if you have a lot of wealthy people owning them. A great example is in 2008, a big reason why home prices decreased rapidly was because you had a lot of underqualified people owning those houses. So if you had approximately you had out of a pool of buyers, you had 20% were actually closing on deals because their, offers were most competitive. Those people were, investors or cash buyers. Those are what we would call the middle to upper class in most instances. In 2008, you had a lot of the lower to middle class executing on deals, and so in that sense, there might not be a flood of supply on the market as there was in 2009, 2010, because there's probably going to be a little bit less foreclosures, and so it's important just to remember that a lot of the people that are owning these assets and these properties right now are not necessarily the same types of people that were owning them in previous real estate declines, if you will. So the one thing that this article really talks about is days on market. So another trend to be aware of is days on market, and so for instance, we're seeing increasing days on market. So whereas maybe it was 5 2 months ago, it might be 15 today, and but days on market increasing is not necessarily correlated with decreasing prices. So typically in a negotiation, you'll have one party will get their price and one party gets their terms. Over the past 24 months or so, sellers have been getting price and terms. So the way the scale tips back typically is where buyers will start getting their terms. You're already seeing it with people being able to include appraisal and inspection contingencies in their offers. And days on market is increasing, but where's the effect on value is kind of where this is going. Anyways, I contend that since days on market, and let me save that for a second. Basically, the article goes on to say that, look, in Lancaster, the current days on market is approximately 15 days, or 25 days, over the past 24 months. 25 days over the past 24 months, and it was approximately 15 days in June of 2022, yes. So over that same period of time, over the past 24 months, home prices have increased 37%. Take an example of me, right? So I'm under contract for something. Single family home was on the market for 5 days at $285. I offered $270. I didn't waive a single contingency. All right, well, it's only on the market for 5 days. And the average home was on the market for 15 days in Lancaster City. And what we would call a rapidly increasing market compared to historical average. And the historical average, we don't want to just take that from the last 24 months. We want to take that from the last 10 years. Or something to that effect, right? Maybe something we might be disagreeable on how many years we want to go back in terms of qualifying or quantifying historical trends. But anyways, I used 10 years, and the average days on market was 50 days over the past 10 years. So, point being is that, look, I got this property for $15,000 below ask, and I got my terms. It was only on the market for 5 days, where the trailing 10-year average was 50 days. So is that difference in price, the fact that I could get it well below asking price, people are going to look at that and say, look, this is a rapidly decreasing market. Look at where people are getting homes for now relative to list price. My argument is, the sellers are doing themselves an incredible disservice by not leaving that property on for at least 25 days, let alone potentially closer to 50 days. Now, I understand that the perception might be that that's a stale listing right now. And look, you might go through some price decreases and whatnot. I think that agents and sellers are actually pulling the trigger way too quickly to do a price decrease or to accept a below list offer just based on recency bias, just based on national news that essentially says, you know, if your house isn't under contract in 10 days, then you have something wrong with it. You know, that was sort of the qualification of a rapidly increasing market, but we're not in that market anymore. Again, this all comes back to the relationship between exposure time, meaning how long the house was on the market, and price, right? So if you only have that house in the market for 5 days, you're probably not finding the person that's going to pay the most money for that property in this market. Now, you could have maybe 2 months ago, but you can't now. And so I'm basically arguing that person's still out there. You just need to leave your house on the market for a longer period of time to find them. And so this data is a little bit more than meets the eye. Again, with my example, you're seeing something under contract for $15,000 below ask. A lot of people are going to look at that and say, this is a rapidly decreasing market. Well, maybe you need to consider the relationship between exposure time and sale price. So again, going back to sort of where I started this, there's a difference between sale price with conditions of sale and market value. In this case, I would say the sellers are acting imprudently and not consistent with the definition of market value, which is where which exposure time is part of that definition. You know, there's a few more things I could hit on here, but I'll leave the rest up to the imagination. If you want to talk about this, I'd be really happy to do so. If you want to email me, mrom@landmarkcr.com, we can talk about that. And I think just an underlying theme is that I'm not making any predictions as to where this market's going. I'm actually not even making any assumptions of where this market is now. I'm just simply contending that we should be more critical of the data and where we're getting it from. That's more important than ever right now, especially as appraisers, but any type of real estate professional. You know, if you would have told me that prices would rapidly increase during the era, the onset of COVID-19, I would have told you you're crazy. I think we need to use that same critical thinking, or I should say we should learn from that experience to be more critical of future scenarios. So with that in mind, I thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you guys gained something from this. And yeah, stay in touch. I'm going to post this graph in the comments, and we'll talk soon. And stay tuned for that Buzzcast interview. It's going to hit on a lot of the same things that we talked about here, but hopefully go into some more depth with some questions from Joan Trice. See you later, guys. Thanks.